Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank REVA for giving an opportunity for us to be here. And thanks, Agni, for your fantastic presentation, which would have given some good insight to people who are in the as an audience. And it's a very interesting question to get started with our panel discussion. See, we have as a BCM professional or as a in general, okay, we have seen many incidents till now. For example, if I would like to recollect from the past, okay, we have seen something like Varda cyclone, okay, with which was completely like shattered Tamil Nadu and the coastal area, and we had Chennai deluge where we had an opportunity to recover from the different cities in India. And after that, we saw something like Mumbai floods 1.5 years back, and also we had experience of Pune floods where we recovered our no our projects or different functions from our alternative cities. Okay, and we have something like Kochi floods last year, which again a very big disaster. So people moved to different states and they started working there. Somehow we managed to recover our support. And again, India elections. Okay, all these whatever I told, we recovered from a different city. But India elections, one of the interesting things, where each day during the polling day, Indian government announced for the to make people to cast their vote. They gave holiday, right? So that's the time where two cities or a couple of multiple states or cities went down on same day, where we were forced to do a BCP plan to send people across different states and different regions to work. It's another interesting way of planning our BCP. That's an interesting thing. Everyone we all faced. Okay, Indian general elections. And if you ask me about something international, the cyclone Irma is one of the what to say international thing which shattered most of the people. And the cyclone Harvey, Hurricane Harvey is one of the things. So I mean, like we have seen many things. Okay, Chennai had problem due to flood. At the same time, Chennai once it had problem due to water scarcity. Even during that time, also many companies suffered without water. So we were planning for BCP strategy. So like that, we had different situation in the past where we handled intercity BCPs and intracity and all. But now we are speaking about COVID-19. Okay, my God, it's like no one has seen in our lifetime. It's we have spoken about pandemic. We have just seen pandemic in our documents, but first time we all know in our lifetime we are experiencing how the pandemic will look like to this extent where I don't have anyone to support me in another state. Okay, government has announced everything is locked down. There is no cities in my what to say intercity or intracity to support, and there is no option to support from inter country. So everything is locked down. It's a totally a different situation. But there comes, okay, whoever has got very good planning to handle this kind of pandemic situation. Okay, they all had a very good time. But if at all someone is not having not had that kind of thing, they moved into something like force majeure situation where they couldn't support their customer. But whoever has got very good telecommuting option, they all had a very fantastic strategy of moving their associates to work from home through their laptops and by supporting you by moving their desktops to home. And also many companies enabled our employees their own devices can be used for office work, which is called as BYOD. So a lot of things I mean like I experienced during this COVID. Okay, so lot of learnings I would say. Okay, reassessing your BCP strategies through telecommunicating where we were not having that much focus all these days. We had some intercity or intercity to support, but this is the first time where everyone is relying on your telecommuting option. So that's a very good learning that we had. And we just had to revisit our home policy stuffs where which was not that much given priority all this time. So we had chance to go through all our working from home policies and all the companies went through that, and they gave appropriate approvals and all. And we just experienced the big time collaboration which is expected between our different suppliers across different states, because right during moving your desktops laptops, a lot of people has to be involved. Okay, so all these things experience we had. And also we had a chance to double click our communication protocol, whether all the organization having a very proper communication protocol to communicate what is going on to the people on the ground, at the same time to share inside your organization or to the customer. So a lot of learnings we had. So I strongly see if any organization succeeded very smartly and handled this COVID situation, they can be ready to handle any kind of disaster or incident in future. That's all I can say. Thanks, Agni.
Thanks, Sridhar.
Hey, thank you. It's a wonderful presentation.
presentation you made, it just set the context right for this panel discussion. So, from my view, I think Venkatesh covered it, the other part of it. Let me look at it. How different is pandemic from other disruptions, if at all? It is? Definitely, by now we know that pandemic is not the same as any other disruption. Typically, it will be a nature which will cause it, as Venkatesh explained. It could be a cyclone, or it could be a flooding. The other one is man-made, which could be a fire or something, or it could be a situation where it's a pandemic. Now, as far as I remember, in my last 2 decades of career, the 2003 or 4, we had swine flu H1N1, and then 2009 we had SARS again, which was a different variant of it in Hong Kong. And the other one was in 2014, which was another variant of it. But this is the biggest pandemic which is globally seen. I mean, if you ask me, this is the largest one in the entire century. So that's how I put it. And what are the differences between a normal disruption, which is caused by nature or man-made, or a technology disruption itself, to a pandemic? Is the risk is totally different. I mean, there is something like a spark risk and a spread risk. So spark is where a pandemic is likely to arise from a country which is not being seen at all. So there is I mean, there was a nice document which says that if at all we consider pandemic not to be going to come to our country, that's how many countries had an issue of handling it. So it just landed the next day in a flight, and then people spread it. So that's one. And second is the spread risk. You don't know how fast and how big it's going to spread. This brings uncertainty in the span of this disruption. If you take a flooding, or if you take kind of a man-made disaster, you know when you're going to come out. For example, a flooding, you know that if the rain is receding and government is working on pumping out the water and the floodgates are open, so you know within a week you can come out of it. But here it is unknown. Today also we don't know. It is March, sorry, from March till April to May 3rd is what we have said. But I mean, if at all, if there is a second wave, it should not happen. We don't know how much time it's going to take. Second is the widespread increase in the mobility. So mortality and the mobility is the factor which is very, very significant in the pandemic. So how fast it can spread, and how many illness it's going to cause, and the mortality rate. So this kind of induces a lot of issues for basically professional. One is people uncertainty causes a lot of worry and kind of what do you say, anxiety with people. And second is the risk of shortage of skills. So if you really want some specified skills, you will have a lot of issues with that. And pandemic can absolutely disrupt the entire supply chain, and which can impact economically very, very significant. So that's what we are seeing. Whereas in a kind of other disruptions, it's very limited, and you know this is what it is. In an earthquake scenario, you know this is the place which is impacted, and you very well know this is the supply chain which will be impacted. The supply chain which will be impacted. Share and then see how we are going to bring it. And the last which I want to touch upon is, I mean, it kind of restricts the public infrastructure at the scale and the severity of the event which is going to cause. So this is what the major one. And the last, which pandemic really causes thing is panic. Panic spreads faster than the pandemic. That with that, I just want to put across my views. It's absolutely totally different than any other descriptions.
Thanks, Sridhar. Very insightful, both Venkatesh and Sridhar. But let me go on to the next part of the discussion. So, in this scenario that we have today, the what I was wondering is how do we monitor the situation and determine what is the right time for organizations to invoke their business continuity plans? I know all of you may not be representing your companies, and I understand that, but your experiences are key because there's a lot of experience that you can share. So maybe we start with Ram, and then Deepak, if you can take over.
Thanks, Agni. So it's pretty important that we start early, be situationally aware. So the first thing is, as business continuity professionals, are people who have been tasked with BCP, function, they need to monitor the news and collect information on the evolving scenario from credible sources. That's very important. Credible sources meaning specific to the COVID pandemic, like WHO, CDC, government sources, and also stay connected with industry peers through WhatsApp groups and industry associations. That's first thing. Second thing, update intelligence on daily basis to the senior management, or if you have a crisis management team in your organization, so that is well and good. You need to build a situational awareness. That's very critical. And it's not that you invoke the BCP at the drop of a hat in an evolving pandemic situation, though it may not be widespread. You build the stage very proactively and ensure that the decision makers have enough facts for them to decide invocation of BCP. The third thing you do is start engaging with the senior leadership or CMT proactively. You have a clear line of communication and have a war room set up with a small dedicated set of professionals who are empowered to decide and execute, and that can cut through organizational complexity and bureaucracy, the usual procedures. And fourthly, you need to constantly reframe your understanding on what's exactly happening, its potential impact on your business operations. So you look holistically how it will affect your ecosystem, your suppliers, your vendors, your customers, your partners, your employees, okay? And then decide on the go. And all these things would be really, fruitful and meaningful only when you are able to take quick decisions. That's the key. Quick decision making is the key. So you need to decide to invoke BCP either by your own volition, or due to events triggered by, say, in a pandemic situation, some employee is infected or suspected to be infected, or vendor, or government is directing all companies to close down physical facilities. And remember this, when it comes to life safety and well-being, it's never too early or jumping the gun. So the faster you decide, engage with the management, that's the way you actually help in taking the invocation decision at the right time. Over to Deepak.
Thank you so much, Ram. Well explained. Let me put some of my thoughts based on the experience that I have seen working with my consulting clients. See, what will happen is in a situation like this, it's very important that you keep a tab on the sources from where you are getting this news and information, right? And I think for pandemic, the most important source would be the WHO. So I'm not sure how many of you have seen, but for pandemic, WHO has defined 8 stages. So there is stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, 4, 5, and then after 6, it is followed by the post-peak as well as the post-pandemic phase. Now, what happens is phase 1, in phase 1 is the transmission is just between the animals. Okay, it doesn't go to human. Phase 2 is when you start seeing that, okay, maybe 1 or 2 cases have been seen where the animal has contaminated a human. Okay, so that's how it starts. So I think at the point when this reaches stage 2, that means from animal to at least one or couple of humans, that's where it becomes critical, because then we are looking at a pandemic which may sort of trigger it into a panic situation later. So for me, I think if a company who is good enough and has a team, they can sort of trigger a small pandemic vigilance task force, I would say. The objective of that is because now we have entered stage 2 or phase 2. From there, we need to start monitoring that, when it becomes to multiple humans, multiple regions across different geographies, and then you go to phase 4. Phase 4 is when you see that, number of human to human transmissions have started increasing, right? So what happens is, from the vigilance perspective, you start monitoring after the stage 2 or phase 2 sets up. From phase 2 starts monitoring continuously. And then what happens is in phase 4 is when you start looking at preparation, because the moment it passes stage 2, stage 3 and enters phase 4, that's when you see that, okay, now there is a bigger risk of the pandemic getting triggered. Okay, so at phase 4, I would say all the organizations, if you are having business continuity plan, start getting prepared. Be vigilant about what were the gaps that you have to be ready with, so that when the situation actually becomes even worse, you are ready for the BCP rollout. Right. So start the preparation in phase 4. Phase 5 is the actual pandemic phase, and phase 6 as well. So phase 5, when actual pandemic triggers, which in fact WHO triggered it on 11th of March this year, right? But what happens is phase 5, WHO has said that it is pandemic, but the organizations are still waiting for the government, the local government and the central government to take the call, right? So you still, what you do is, at least once you see that pandemic has been declared by WHO, start looking for a light force of your people to start working remotely. Okay. What I would say is trigger a smaller BCP or trigger a minor version of your BCPs, just to ensure that yes, you have started that phase already. Okay. The moment the local and the central government says that okay, nothing doing now, we are going to stop the movement of people, the movement of transport, everything. That is when you are actually ready, because you had already started well in advance looking for this. So this is what I would say, is the are the different phases where depending on the phases defined by WHO and depending upon your local and central government regulations or the instructions that they provide you, we should be ready. And phase 5 would be the right time when we should be looking at triggering of the business continuity plans. Until then, keep vigilance on the situations. Keep ensuring that you are prepared from all the perspectives, so that when the actual trigger happens on BCP, you are ready there. Thanks, Vinit. That's my answer to this question, I think.
Thank you so much, Deepak. Thank you, Ram. So, do you think that organizations are equipped to handle pandemic as part of their business continuity program, and are plans enough to take care of the disruptions caused by a pandemic? Sridhar, what are the other factors that play a critical role in successful business continuity recovery?
So I think there are multiple factors. I mean, having a BCP plan and the pandemic being covered doesn't actually help. So it has a multi-facet of it. Let me give a small analogy of two organizations. Organization 1 and Organization 2. Organization 1 has a very hierarchical reporting structure and centralized leadership, tightly coupled teams, and concentrated workforce. And you have a lot of specialist workforce which is doing the job. The organization is highly driven by policy and procedure. Now let's take an example of organization 2, which is very network, distributed leadership, loosely coupled. What do you say? I mean, there is no much dependency between each of these teams, and you have a very dispersed workforce. And also, they are not very specialist. The team is cross-trained, and a lot of people are generalists in that matter. And they are not very bound by policy and procedure, guided by simple yet rules which are very flexible for achieving the objective. In that case, the organization too clearly will come out successful in a pandemic, because each region has its own dependencies. Even if one region, multiple regions have been shut down, the region which is very low impacted because of the pandemic not entering the country or the region can function very smoothly. So that aspect is very important, very evidently seen in this situation now. The organization which falls into category 2 has a lot of flexibility to manage their own independently now. So if you see a lot of tweets coming out from companies, manufacturing companies, if you see, many companies have been manufacturing now independently the ventilators on their own. And if you see, if I just want to give an example, if you see Mahindra Group, so a lot of tweets coming out from Anand Mahindra is very independently operating organizations, and a lot of innovation is happening independently because of the factors what I mentioned here. Said that some organizations requires that structure, but they can factor in that. What are all the critical factors is, as my other colleagues also said, you need to have a very good communication strategy, and you should absolutely team up with your national, state, and agencies for getting the updates frequently. And you should build your pandemic command center so that you can communicate, because first and foremost important factor here is your own employees' safety and your customers' safety and your partners who are engaged, then everything falls into place of remaining. And you should bring the awareness, enforce policies, and pandemic should be part of your thing. Because as I said, in last 2 decades, only 2 times you have seen very small. In fact, the last pandemic only caused 800 deaths globally. Now we are seeing a huge. I mean, almost we are going lakhs together of loss in life. It's very unfortunate. If you see the other factors which are very relevant is how good your crisis management is and how good you're communicating with your internal organization, because this is a time which will cause a lot of stress. So you should take care of your employees separately. There should be a group of people who are dedicated only to take care of employees and then keep them engaged, ensure they are, because people are stuck at home for almost month, more than a month now. So their well-being, and you should ensure their mental what do you say, the uncertainty and the fear is all removed from it. So these are all aspects which goes into it, and then technology is major part, but apart from that, a lot of other aspects also is there. And the last is how good organization can work in this situation is availability of technology and the resources. So what people were considering legacy, the VPN technology is coming very handy at this point of time. And many moved into collaboration platforms, but VPN is what is saving the day. And of course, collaboration really helps in conducting meetings. But if you really want to do some work on your system, which is there in your network, VPN is the only savior now. Deepak, I hand over to you.
Okay, thanks, Sridhar. Now, question about whether the organizations were prepared. I think we should not talk about organization first. Should we ask whether the country was prepared? Did the government prepare anything about that? I think if the answer is, I would say it is no. Even the governments were not prepared with such a situation, right? Because earlier we never faced something like this, with so many deaths and many infections happening at a rapid rate. So I would say that is one thing that because organizations definitely though can have their proactive approach, though they can have their independent approach about the business continuity and all. But the thing is, in this case, people were depending, or the organizations were depending on what instructions do I get from the government, local government and central government, right? So at that point of time, I would say, approach from the government is very important for organizations to take the decision. Should I go ahead or should I not? Okay. Now, most of the organizations before this have never factored a situation saying that can be the partial or a total lockdown situation, and which is not only for 1 or 2 days, right? We are talking about weeks and weeks together. So this we have not seen. In fact, one of the client we were talking to last year, when we talked about a pandemic situation, they were not able to appreciate, because we said what will happen if you are not able to go to office on a regular basis for weeks together. They didn't appreciate that, and they said, no, how is it possible? We have never faced a situation like that. But now, this time when we are talking to them, they in fact, they said that yes, you said that right, and we were not able to appreciate that time. But now we are seeing what is the impact going to be, right? So this was something that was always missing. Now, in the organization, I would say from Sridhar's perspective as well, we didn't see a good pandemic plan or pandemic response plan for the organization. We have of course seen that the emergency response plan and crisis management plan will have a small section about pandemic, but this is not enough. At this point of time, if you see about COVID, we need to have a well-defined pandemic response plan for all organizations, especially those organizations which are large enough to take care of something like this. So that is very important. So I would say, is BCP enough? No, BCP is not enough. You need to ensure that a proper pandemic response plan has to be in place. Very important. And that pandemic response plan has to be very critically aligned with the crisis management plan as well. Okay. Now, because of yes, this is one situation where, if you are not sure, people would have read that there was a news about 2 or 3 days back that 7 out of US workers are highly stressed. This means that we are getting into a situation where your mental health is not going to be sound. Okay, working from home, and this we are talking about US. US is a country that's been practicing work from home for a number of years. I remember my earlier company, we used to have people or very senior people who used to work from home for 7, 8 years continuously. And if in your we are seeing this trend, about 7 out of 10 people, 70% of people highly stressed because of this situation, I think there is something seriously wrong. Right? So we need to be very careful that, apart from your BCP, you have a proper pandemic response plan, including the mental health of people. That aspect of mental health of people should be very critically involved in all this planning. That's very important. And of course, other factor, as Sridhar was saying, technology is something that has to be there because we have seen the importance of technology. People like educational institutions and all who didn't think earlier that there could be remote classes happening. Now they realize that yes, this is possible. So I think these all are things which should be looked, even if we are going to prepare for next phase of pandemic, or maybe God forbid, if any situation comes like this, which will stop the work totally, which will stop the organizations totally. So I think it's important that a proper pandemic response has to be scientifically made because a lot of things depends upon the human factors, people who are involved in the organizations. Yes, Agni, back to you.
Thanks, Deepak. And let me see how are we doing on time. Shinu, can we go ahead with some more questions, or let's take one more question for now? So, technology. In this whole thing, now there is a technology challenge that everyone is facing. In your experience, guys, what is which technologies do you believe are coming of good health, and which technologies are becoming more and more popular? Venkatesh, either?
Yeah, thanks, Agni. So, since we are in a situation where we don't have any other option until unless people has to work from home, so predominantly we need to ensure that all these days our employees were very happy working in office with high bandwidth and good network connectivity and everything. Now we are working from home, so people has to be given very good network first of all, either through broadband whatever they have or through dongles. So company has to facilitate all those things. There's one thing that that has to be focused upon. And second thing, good VPN. People has to have a good VPN to connect, to get into the organizations, all the access parts. And another thing, if at all someone is taking any calls, kind of nature of business, they need to have soft phone kind of thing so that they can make use of that to take calls from home. So all those facilities are very much available, which are highly availed by many organization in the world currently. So that's the reason we could able to many organization could able to survive during this pandemic situation. So technology really all these technology helps us. And again, when we are approving the people to work from home, right, just like that we can't allow people to use their own devices, which we used to call as BYOD, bring your own device. We can't allow them to work just like that. So we need to just double click whether they have any suspicious stuffs in their personal devices. We need to ensure that whether their operating system are pirated or licensed one, or they do have very good antivirus installed. They're like that. Okay, they have good firewall and all. So because right now we knew that everyone knows that people are working from home. So this is the right time for hackers also to try to play with the folks who are working from home. So it is very highly important for the organization to double click with the people who are using BYOD during the situation, so that they can protect those associates or those employees to be hacked from hackers. So that important thing, that organization has to support, to protect their people from the cyber attacks. So this is very important thing that from technology perspective that people has to focus during the situation. And emerging technology, I would say, see, Cisco is offering a lot of free VPN, which is encrypted, no, which is for encrypted to connect the office. That can be very well availed. And Cisco is giving free WebEx also, which is very good for the collaboration and all. And Cisco is again giving a DNS security tool, which is also good one to use. And MS Teams, okay, we were like using a different types of chat softwares or to conduct meetings, but MS Teams right now is booming like anything. Many organizations using that, and it consumes very less bandwidth, so which can be made use of. Okay, it has got a lot of good features. Again, no, it is it solves good purpose to the organization and to the associates. So MS Teams can be leveraged, and we have some tools like Slack, which is helping for the to increase your productivity of the associates. So and we have a lot of tools in the market which is very helpful to conduct trainings at home, because you might be having new joinees. Okay, you need to conduct training. You can't get them to office. So these tools which is giving very good environment as if they are at office. You can create that kind of environment and you can give a fantastic training to them. So a lot of free tools are there, and if anyone is interested to know more insight on that, feel free to contact me one on one, so that I can try to help you by giving a lot of tools which is available in the market. So I think a lot of technology availability is there which can be availed during this situation. Over to you, Sridhar.
Hey, thanks. Okay. So, at least from my view, I mean, which typically companies will plan, as you initially set the context, at a very minimum business continuity level, which will support the business at a very normal, sustainable mode, which should be typically 25-30% of continuity. Now, for that, readiness is what typically enterprises will plan their technology readiness. So, it could be a VPN which will have your 1,000 employees, which will have typically 200 or 100 sessions, concurrent sessions available. Now, in this situation where the 100% of workforce is going to be remotely working, it puts a lot of stress on the technology element of it, be it your VPN, be it your email solution. So that's where I mean, then companies has to really struggle to acquire licenses. Many companies I know were looking out for VPN boxes at that point of time because they couldn't handle the load. And many companies I know were looking out to hire laptops at that point of time when it became that you have to 100% make it work. And a few people, I mean, majority if you take tech companies in Bangalore at least, you have pockets of companies and then there are PGs around it. So then the problem, other biggest problem is the internet is a shared internet and we don't have that much of capability to work on a VPN system. Again, VPN has a little bit of overload on the thing. So that kind of is a challenge. Now look at the situation. Government has to force many of the streaming partners to reduce their high definition level, which is a default. So that is the level of extreme situation where government said that country is working from home. Now you reduce your HD because that consumes a lot of bandwidth. So that is where the things have evolved in this kind of situation. Now, what technology is proving to be immense help now is very simple: VPN, internet. People are working from home, which is very and thanks to many ISPs which just offered support. They have renewed without payment, and then really lot of support from government and the ecosystem. You can see in many mobile companies have not even stopped their services even if they were supposed to be stopped. So that is a good thing which has been seen from the ecosystem. And then me.
Thanks. I think we have a little paucity of time because of the delay that began at the beginning. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to skip this question and I'm going to go to the last point of discussion that we have. So Ram, Venkatesh, try to keep it as short as possible. But what do you think is the future after coronavirus?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I mean, again, I am very sure people will be very curious to learn about this as well. See, any organization we need to have as like Agni covered and Deepak also covered. Okay, until unless you have a very solid BIA RA document, it will be very difficult. And until unless a good BCP document, if you don't have, it will be very difficult to execute your BCM strategies during this kind of situation. So please, this is the right time for all of us to ensure to double click our BCP strategies, through our BCP, what say, BIA and RA document, and double click all your risks, whether you have raised all your risks, and ensure that you have given a proper treatment and attention to the risk. Ensure that all your risks are correctly given RPN, and all those things has to be double click. Right, we should not be reactive. We have to be proactively. We have to do all this double clicking so that we are planned for the next any incident. Touch wood, we shouldn't get that. But I'm just telling you in the worst side. So right time to double click all your BCP plan. When I say BCP plan, okay, you have to double click whether your process are in good shape. Double click your asset details and ensure that all your vendor details, supply chain details, business partner details, everything is live updated, and you have a proper evacuating plan in place, and communication protocol. Okay, who will communicate to whom at what time? All those things should be clearly defined and communicated, and contact details from all the different levels of supply chains has to be documented and shared with the right stakeholders, and we need to have a clear cut asset inventory. And again, okay, we are going back to the organization after 1.5 months or 2 months of lockdown, right? We have to ensure that your organization completely is cleaned, hygienic factor, all are sanitized. People should be given masks to well get in, and we need to try to create tunnel kind of thing so that they are sanitized before getting into the office. So all the basic hygiene factors can be did, so that people can get into the office happily and they can continue. And it's a very right time to double click your strategy with respect to telecommunicating, and whether I got proper approval for my working from home through my client. So all these things can be double clicked, and we can keep all the stuffs in place so that we are ready to handle any incidents.
Thanks,
More,
Venkatesh.
yeah,
If you're done, I'll just resume
yeah, yeah,
since
yeah, yeah.
running out of time. So I'll cover something in the macro level. So the end of pandemic will not be like a switch on or switch off. This is not I'm saying it's. I'm quoting Dr. Anthony Fauci, who is the leading infectious diseases expert in the world. He's based in US. Now, the business as usual, what we call in BCP terms as BAU, will be slow and gradual, depending on the government lifting the restrictions in a phased manner. It won't be like May 4th, we will all go back to our normal lives. It will be slow and steady. It depends a lot of things on how the services are being brought back to normal, normalcy. It's dependent on resumption of your transport services, or for employees, it's more about reopening PG accommodations, hotels, and readiness of people to come back. More importantly, because people are scared, and all those factors will come in play. For businesses, it's more businesses will go online to build organizational resilience. For example, retail, they are leveraging online shopping and delivery, and education, e-learning is taking off in a big way. And flexible work arrangements will become more normal. More decentralization will happen. How people understand how it has to be decentralized, importance of it, and remote options for will be created for jobs that were never originally planned to be remote. And one wild thing, I'm not very sure how it will pan out. The need for large fancy offices in posh tech parks will be reviewed, and the office space, the real estate, expensive real estate would be done away with, and office space will shrink, and minimum staff will be there, and others who need to come will come on a rotational basis for face-to-face meetings. Supply chain will again be critically reviewed, and dependencies on one large supplier will be done away with, and the dependencies will be balanced to de-risk the reliance on one major supplier. Business continuity as a domain will be taken seriously because of this current pandemic experience and impact, and we need to prepare for the next challenge. This COVID is not just one-off crisis; it might relapse in future in some other form. New pandemic might come, might surface. So scenarios that were never envisioned will be planned, and that will be backed by war gaming to simulate and learn from the behaviors under stress. That's more important. And most importantly, the criticality of human side of work will become apparent, and employee-centric, human-centric work practices and business practices will put in place. So that's it from my side.
Thanks, Ram. And with this, I think we've come to an end of our panel discussion. I'm handing it over to Chini for the questions. Hello, Chini. You might be on mute.
You can start.
Yeah, until Shrinu starts, let me share my view on the last question. The new normal is not going to be it's not going to change until some time. People have to wear masks. Social distancing is going to continue, and the office seating will be changed. You see, the cubicles will be changed. The seating will be changed until we get a vaccine, and everything is going to change. I mean, buses is not going to have the same seating. Flights will not have the same seating. So a lot of change will be seen, and open. Trust me, the IT will have a lot of pressure on password research. People would have forgotten the password. People are they're not work from home.
Oh, if time permits.
Let me do it this way. I see some questions in the chat and I will try and answer all of them. This is Agni. May I again request all of you to please go on mute. I cannot hear anything. If I start from the top, I can see Pratyush Veluru asking a few questions, and I will try and make it easy for you to answer your questions. First of all, were companies ready? There were three kind of companies who were thinking about who are in this situation today. Those who had a BCP and had a pandemic plan and had exercised it. One of the examples in the world is a company like Wimbledon who have done a $141 million insurance and they're going to get paid for it. While on the other side, there are companies who even had BCPs, they had not exercised, and today they're still struggling. And of course, there are those who didn't plan for it. Then comes a question from Ashish Kohli, who says from home works more effectively for non-voice operations. So not only that, he's talking about sales. Sir, the learning that we have right now is sales is working from home. So one of the things that we are now, at least what I am working on right now is to figure out what is working from home and what is not working from home. I can see sales is working from home. Probably the organization is moving towards a digital platform. Then there is a question for Flipkart. I'm going to skip that because at this point in time, all speakers are here on the personal capacity. Then I can see what is the change you see it comes to BCP future post COVID-19.
Sure.
The future that I can see is everybody is going.
You are unmuted, but I can't hear you.
Everybody is going to plan for pandemic going forward. That is definitely one change that is going to happen. Then I see a question from Inakshi Pandian, and this is about educational institutes. People who do not have access to internet facility, what measure will be suggested to help those students who are in such places? I really don't have an answer for you because at the end of the day, you need to the student needs to connect to a teacher if there has to be a classroom of any sorts. So I am aware that there are locations in deep in Uttar Pradesh who are using telephone, the basic telephone, to talk to their children. I'm not sure how will it work out for you, ma'am, but I think that is the only experience I have. I'm aware Sampak Foundation, which is led by Vineet Nair, they are doing some amount of work where they are making education in local languages available online and on mobiles. Then I see, from Pratyush Veluru, another question which is information security point of view, is there an impact on confidentiality? Not so much on confidentiality because everybody is putting up VPNs. The impact is somewhere else. The attacks are now happening on the endpoints and the attacks are happening on VPNs. There are denial of service attacks that VPN servers are facing. So there are those challenges that will always remain. But more importantly, privacy has taken a backseat. This situation that we are in, we are going to face more and more state surveillance just to find out where people are, probably with good intent, but that good intent can also be looked at somewhat differently in the future. Then I see a lot of questions. RV is saying that what factors need to be considered when you plan back to office post declaration. I think that was answered to some extent. Then I see a question from Parth Acharya. How is the situation invoking BCP across the country has increased the risk of cybersecurity and attacks? I think I answered that just now. How will this pandemic affect employment? I really don't know, but what I'm seeing prima facie is because of this pandemic, because of the shutdown, businesses are shut, employment is getting affected. Organizations are trying to reduce expenses. They are going back to all suppliers and they are even trying to reduce the existing existing expenses. Now that means that there will be an impact on employment. To what extent, I don't think I can explain that. Then I see recovery procedures. I think we discussed that. What practices should be considered by companies post pandemic situation? So I'm currently doing a study on exactly that. What is it that is working? What can you do individually and succeed by not going to office? What can you do as a group and succeed when you don't go to office? Definitely, I feel that in the future, there will be people will consider the fact that if somebody can work from home successfully and achieve the targets that they have, I'm not talking of sales targets, I'm talking of operational targets, then that function can definitely work from home. Won't recession amplify the risk of business continuity during COVID-19? Yes and no. Yes, it would. It would create challenges. Business continuity also will face a lot of challenges, especially in countries where the pandemic situation is going uphill. In this country, thanks to whatever the government has done and however everybody is reacting, we are probably still under control until things go wrong. So I think more or less I have covered all questions except the last one, which I see is developed country like USA is struggling. Of course, they will struggle. Any country who has not taken this seriously is struggling. In fact, when SARS happened, also we saw that the amount of preparation that the Southeast Asian countries had put into practicing for SARS were something that was not practiced in Europe or in America. And I am telling you as somebody who has managed business continuity plans across the globe. Uh, yeah, one more question from Ashish Kohli. Is a pandemic management plan different from a crisis management plan? Actually, they're all integrated. Pandemic management plan is an approach to manage a pandemic. Crisis management is an overall approach for any scenario. What other questions do we have? What would be 5 critical factors which would lead companies to this phase of crisis? Any crisis has actually five phases. So there are many factors which people have to think. People have to think about the critical activities that they need to perform, the minimum level lights on, what they were doing. What? Hello?
Thank you so much. And I think there are, so we have about 180 plus participants and we got about 50 plus questions. So it is going to be very difficult because of the paucity of time answering all these questions. I would request all of you to connect all the speakers. In fact, they are such uh, uh, supportive even in our programs or otherwise. Please ensure that you connect to them using various social media posts that we have posted, and ensure that you get connected to them on one-on-one to get answers to some of your specific questions. There are questions specific to organizations which we are afraid that they may not be able to answer directly, but otherwise, most of the questions from their expertise they will be able to answer. So,
Let me add something, Shinu. Sorry, there are certain questions which are specific to your industry. So if I and I know we've not been able to answer that within this time, and like Shinu says, please feel free to reach out to us.
yeah, exactly. So it is definitely please connect to them on for BCP practices, because we get to hear a lot of questions on how exactly BCP practices to be implemented in an organization, and all of them would be able to help you on. So just to wrap up all the this series of discussions on such a critical area of organizational efficiency using BCP and the science of it. We are hoping that the stellar panel is able to do at least some justice. Because the paucity of time, we are not able to actually get in depth, but we are hoping that this 45 minutes, I think it just crossed almost an hour now, that it has actually given you some tips and some solace or some comfort in dealing with this pandemic situation. And we do hope that you keep up your spirits high, keep learning, keep experimenting, and keep doing excellent work that all of you are doing. Thanks again individually to Agnidipta for wonderfully formulating this and keeping the time clock on precision time clock and then ending it up on time. Similarly, Ram, Deepak, Sridhar, and Venkatesh. All of you, thanks again for joining at this time of the hour. And we thank each of you, almost 180 plus participants. We thank each of you to joining, and we look forward to connect with you from REVA University and REVA Academy for Corporate Excellence. Just to give a glimpse of what we do, we connect with industry and working professionals and provide a series of executive programs customized programs in some of these emerging technologies like analytics, AI, cybersecurity, and more. So please connect with us for any queries. Please connect with the panelists for your queries on these issues. Thank you, everyone, and we do hope all of you are staying home and staying safe. Stay connected, and thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was our pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night. Good night.
It was a very good session. Thank you.